Welcome to another episode of Risky Thoughts with Rob and Roy.
I'm Rob.
And I am Roy. And it's been a long time, guys. It has been almost a month of us not recording anything here. And,
month and a half.
Yeah. We kind of got... I'm not going to say we got sidetracked, but we are now, like, we start our... I started my own business. And, like, Rob's giving me a huge hand here because he's just a pro at the whole construction realm of things, right? So we've got like a lot of work, and this is such a crazy endeavor that we're trying to embark on here. You know what I mean? And we're trying to do something for ourselves here. Like I'm of the mindset that like I want to work for myself, and now Rob's giving me a hand here, and we're doing it.
So we let the audience know last time that we were building houses, quote unquote. Remember that episode was like,
yeah, fuck it, we're building houses.
Fuck the video, we're building houses.
Yeah.
Let's build houses. So we've taken it quite a while. So we've taken it quite a ways from then till now.
Yeah.
Like
what happened in that period? Like okay. Obviously, if you want to share, there's been some really amazing things that have happened in your life.
Yeah. So I've had a second kid, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And
congratulations, Rob.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been stressful dealing with a 9-month pregnant wife. It's been stressful dealing with a 2-year-old or an almost 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Who's starting to learn, no. And like how to cause shit to test my limits. And on top of all that, still working my full-time gig.
Yeah.
And then trying to give you a hand with running the business.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of things going on, but you're right that the silver lining in all of this, and the best news, and always is good news, is I had another kid.
Yeah.
So we'll take a moment to welcome Gabriel into this world.
Yes.
That's his name for everyone. And it's been great having him come into this world. But like I said, it's been a very stressful 6 weeks that we've kind of just gone through. Things are settling down now. My wife is obviously now sort of recovering from the delivery.
Yes.
My older son is starting to learn to like adjust to having a brother around. And then the other guy is just like a blob. All he does is shit and sleep. And we feed him. Right? That's it. But it's good because like everything is now falling into place again, and there's no more chaos, there's no more stress on the personal side, which is good. It's allowing me to spend a little bit more time and effort focusing on the professional side.
Yes.
I had this week off. I haven't taken a week off of work, and I don't even remember the last time I did that. So that's been different. We spent a lot of it at the hospital. Yeah. Obviously. But, it's just been good not thinking about work 24 hours a day. It was really refreshing.
Yeah.
But
you kind of were.
Well, yeah, in different ways. Yeah, for sure. The problem is, like, once you train yourself, I'm not sure if it's true for every industry, but in the construction industry, it's like when you're on the management side of things, there's just no sleep, right? You don't turn it off. You can never turn it off because there's always something that you have to be thinking about. There's always planning that's happening. There's always like stressing about shit that went wrong. There's always something to think about, phone calls to make, whatever. Yeah.
So to rewind a little bit here, it's just like, why the hell are we in what we're doing? Like, why are we even doing this? Like, this is crazy. Like, I've talked to people about, like, and you guys know my past. If you guys have been following this kind of, once again, I also want to apologize for not releasing an episode, like, frequently every week. But it's, things in our lives have changed, but we're still going to be doing this. In fact, like, we have some plans to do, like, mentorship and things like that we're going to, actually, as of today, we're open to take in requests, right? We're going to leave a little description in the blurbage, and Siobhan is helping us out with that. Like, he's already working on a little post there, like, just for if you want to talk to Rob and Roy for an hour, you can book a time, and we will kind of coach you a bit. But what makes us even qualified? We're not psychiatrists. We're not like anything. We're not nothing. We're nobodies, right? But true. I do have to say that, like, coming from nothing, like just nothing, like just the poorest people, fucking whatever it is. Like it wasn't poor, but it definitely like struggling family. You know what I mean? And you know, my dad was very like anti Robert Kiyosaki, if you know who he is. Like Robert Kiyosaki's a little bit of a scammer, right? He's like for Trump and stuff like that. But you know, he wrote the book Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? And there's differences between the poor dad philosophy and the rich dad philosophy. The poor dad's like, yo, you know, save your money, don't take risk, just stay in school, like work this job that you hate, do things that you hate. You know, your valuable time in your life, do things you hate so you can secure in the later part of your life. You know, I'm going to kind of share on behalf of Zhang. I had a conversation with Zhang, and that's a conversation I had with Zhang. You know, Zhang, he's been going through stuff, right? You know, we are all going through stuff. And, you know, he told me one day, he's just like, yo, bro, like, he's just like, I just want to, like, get a nice job so I can work on my retirement. You know what I mean? And I can, you know, just, but it's just like, what about now? What about today? What about tomorrow? What about the next week? Like, you're going to do shit that you hate doing for, like, you know, an extended period of time. So when you're old, you can, you know, relax and you can be safe. I don't know. Like, I'm always been of the mentality, like, I've never cared about that. Like, you know what I mean? And it's also why I'm even talking about this is something I want to share with you guys. Like, I've been mentoring a couple of people very close to me. You know, shout out. I'm not mentoring, but like I'm working with them. Like, you know, Siobhan being one of them, Louise being another one, and just other men and young boys, and not young boys, but young men who are like still trying to figure out. Even bro, Mo. You know what I mean? We've had some great discussions, right? And I'm just trying to open everyone's eyes out and to this idea that, like, do shit that you like doing, and you're gonna get flack for it. Because I'm telling people I'm working 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day from night. Bro, Rob, you're helping me out here in the garage. You're having a kid. You know what I mean? And we're still like working. Mm-hmm. Like, holy shit! From the second you wake up till you sleep, the amount of liability that we have, the amount of shit that we can get into if we fuck shit up. You know what I mean? But we're still doing it, and we're still kind of enjoying it. It's stressful. It's like it gets irritating. You know what I mean? But we're still doing it, and I think I'm loving it. You know what I mean? And so I'm just saying, we're doing mentorship now. If you guys want to talk about it, like, it's like breaking out of that shell of kind of like staying in the status quo. Like, this society has so many things that it does to us that keeps us small. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It tells us so many things. And like, Bezos went to fucking the moon. Right?
Well, to space. I don't know. To the moon.
Well, yeah. Well, okay. Well, okay. That's how much I've been working, Rob. I haven't been looking at the news. I've just been scanning the news. Anyways, but like, you know, Elon's doing crazy shit, and it's just like, you know, now even when you hear me talk about it, I can guarantee you, people who are listening are probably like, yo, bro, you don't have what it takes to be an Elon or a Bezos. Like, you're gonna get somewhere, but it's just, that's the thing that keeps you small. Because you're whoever's listening to me who has that attitude, like, I want to get like Kanye too. You know, Kanye, like, I know he has a bipolar shit. Maybe I'm bipolar. I don't know what it is, but it just, you know, people are like, they're just pushing that energy to like adapt and to kind of not adapt, to kind of conform with what everyone else is doing.
Yeah.
Like, we're the only ones who just started a podcast in our friend group, and I think someone that you know started a podcast.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going outside of the normal space. I don't think it matters whether you're successful or not. Like, no. to compare yourself to someone like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. No. I mean, first of all, those guys, I'm sure they worked super, super hard. You know, I'm sure they're very highly functional people with very good, you know, intelligence and like intellectual capacity is what I meant to say. Yeah. And you need that to be in to make it to that state. I agree.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there's a whole bunch of other elements that need to fall into place. There is an element of luck.
And luck. Yeah.
There's an element of a whole bunch of things. The point I'm trying to make though is that like I don't care if I'm the next Elon Musk. I don't care if I'm the next Jeff Bezos. It's not even relevant.
That isn't even. Yeah.
The part that matters is like what I try to understand. The question I've been asking myself is like, why are we enjoying what people would consider to be punishment? Like, you know, you're working all these hours. Oh, that sounds terrible. Well,
that's exactly what that energy I got.
Yeah, and it's just like, well, the only reason that you think it's terrible is because you're comparing what you understand work to be.
Yeah.
And you're trying to superimpose it on my life, and you're thinking, well, if I took, let's role play for example, if I'm the person that you were speaking to, the only way that I can evaluate what you've told me is through analyzing it through my life and my experience. And so if you're Roy and you're coming up to me and I'm person X, you say, hey, person X, you know, I've been like working 16 hours a day lately. It's crazy. And I say to you, well, like, that's fucking dumb. Like, why would you do that? Like, what about the rest of life?
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that, like, they're understanding your statement to be like, well, let's extract my experience of work and run that out over 16 hours a day. I don't want to do that for 16 hours a day. Well, then maybe that tells you that you're not doing something that you should be doing, right? Yeah. That goes back to your point of doing something that you really love to do.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure that, like, what we're doing in terms of the actual tasks that we're doing are the things that we love to do. I think what we're loving about this experience is exploring that, like, freedom, exploring that, like, unknown of trying to, like, run a business and trying to understand the different mechanics involved. It's all kind of novel to us. There's still
novelty,
at this point.
Yes, that's still very true, and I want to keep that there because this could also just be novelty.
Yes,
right.
And I, look, I don't believe that that's what it is for us. I think there will always remain some level of novelty because there's always going to be something new to experience and learn. Yeah. And you also do get that like swing of feelings of like those rise of emotions of like, you know, so for example, if you're working a regular 9-to-5 job and you complete a task that has been challenging you and your company for some time and you're the one who saves the day, you solve the problem.
Yeah.
You're going to feel a level of ecstasy just because of the fact that, you know, you've done something that nobody else was able to do or whatever.
Yes, you feel.
But it's going to come and it's going to go relatively quickly because the impact that's had on you as an individual is relatively minor, and the person who truly benefits from that success is really the business owner, right? And I think when you are the business owner and you're trying to solve a problem that's unsolvable or you are having a hard time solving, the reward that you get from solving that problem is infinitely better because at the end of the day, you've done it for yourself, and it's like there's something that you can't experience unless you are the person who's taking the risk, right? You're exaggerating those emotions, and when you fail, it's the same thing on the other side, right? If you take a risk and you don't succeed and you make a mistake that actually costs you money or time or whatever of value that you appreciate, you're going to be drastically lower than if you fuck something up for a company that you work for. Because if you fuck something up at a company you work for, what's it really mean to you? The worst that's going to happen is you might lose your job, but you just go get another one, right?
Yeah.
And there's no like actual loss. There's no tangible loss that you feel or experience. But when it's your business, that risk reward sort of like balancing act is far more exaggerated. Like I think you get a lot more reward, but you also get a lot more punishment when you're wrong.
Yes.
And you're on the wrong side of the risk.
Yeah, something I just want to kind of like on a sidebar explain that I was reading is like this idea of like expectation of reward, right? So it's like, and I do this, and I think you do it. I do it a lot more. Like I'm a daydreamer, right? And I think a lot of people who listen to this podcast are daydreamers. That's why I want to help them. It's just like, you know, I was that guy who's just like, yeah, I have a big plans. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that, but nothing ever materialized. You know, nothing. But you know, to be fair, something materialized more so than the average daydreamer because we got a podcast, we got we're business. You know what I mean? We've got employees. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like this is something a little bit more, but I'm explaining it so that my motive here is just I want everybody to get their money, right? So, and I want everybody to get their dreams or whatever the fuck it is that you guys are looking for, right? And it's just like when you're daydreaming of this grand idea, because you see it all the time, when someone's kind of fantasizing, and then like boom, you just got your reward. That daydream was your reward, and it just blew up your fucking brain, full of dopamine, right? And then nothing happened, right? But for us, it's like a little bit more of a slower burn. Like we're working, and we have some expectation, and it's going along with every hour, every fucking piece of sweat. You know what I mean? And sometimes it almost becomes like the work is the reward.
Yeah,
Like,
no,
you know
it
what I
is,
mean?
and
That's
we've said that
philosophy.
a number of times in our previous episodes. And as you're talking, there, like my mind can't help but wander off into different spaces as you're giving these words of wisdom. And I think for me, because I really wanted to understand, like you said that you know a lot of people have the daydream and you get that dopamine rush and then it kind of fades.
Yeah.
We were also those people, like
and we still are.
100%. But something has changed, right? And that's where my mind was going as you were sort of having that speech. It's just like, well, what's different? Because I have always thought of myself as being a daydreamer, and I've always said to people when I have a great idea, I'm not going to action it. I need someone to action it for me because I know I'm not.
Yeah.
But that's not the case anymore. Like I do feel different. Getting this thing off the ground and getting your feet running and sort of getting the business operational and having customers and so on and so forth. Taking it to from it's now alive, right? This idea is no longer an idea. It's actually a real thing, and it's happening.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's been the experience of that transformation that's been eye-opening for me, or something has triggered in me that's like, now when we do come up with an idea, I don't think
it's a reward.
Yeah, like I'm
like, do you, Rob? You're helping me out here, and we're almost like partners here, right? And like, it's just like, is the money? I'm sorry to like kind of deviate here, guys. And like, if you guys want to clarify anything, we've got like the coaching here. If you want us to go over anything, well, listen, we want to help. Okay, so like, if you guys need anything, please feel free to reach out to like, it's Swan Digital, right? So we're gonna put all that stuff in the information there, but and Siobhan will kind of arrange a time and we can talk about it more. But like, the money, is that a reward? Like, is that something that you truly, like I've said it many times, like, you were always like the dude who just money is important. Like, it'll help people around us. It's not good. I know that it's not going to help me. I know that people around me want the money. I don't. Like,
so interesting you asked that question, because what I was going to finish my thought before saying was, like, I do think in trying to digest, like, what has been the change, what's been the catalyst that really converted an idea into practical life this time around. It's been a combination of things. Number one, it's in a domain that I'm already comfortable with. I already know the space.
Yes.
So there's a lot less resistance in terms of the anxiety that you would normally face. That's number one. Number two, my wife has a lot to do with it. See, my wife, she supports me in all the decisions I make. Sometimes with some anger. But in this particular case, it was met with nothing but like support.
Right.
Because she knows I'm capable. And she knows that what we are doing, or what you are doing, that I'm trying to assist with, has been something that she believed can be real.
Wow.
The other ideas that we've had have been kind of fantasy-ish. She still supported, like, even the podcast.
The podcast is real, bro.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's out there, and we got lots of listeners now, and sure, it's definitely growing, and I agree with that. But I still think in her mind, she was like, yeah, okay, whatever, I'll support you in the podcast, but it's just a podcast, like, that's not going to go anywhere. Now, whatever, let's not go there. But with respect to the other business, it's like, well, that's actually going to go somewhere, and the reason she knows that is because it's a real business. It's a very practical, everyday type of business.
It's practical.
And it's not going to take a lot, to get it really moving into a direction where it's going to produce. Now, the grander is like with the podcast, you want to blow up, you want to become, you want to make a ton of money, or again, it's not about the money, and I'll come back to answering your question in a second, but it can be scaled to a large degree. And that's where it's like, okay, well, you can be the greatest musician in the world and you want to be an artist that's playing on the radio.
You get status, you get like,
you get lots of things.
You get all the human Maslow's hierarchies things.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
And what I wanted to get at is, like, when I have to spend time away from her to take care of business.
Yeah.
and do things that, you know, maybe she would normally wish that that time was dedicated to her for. She's willing to make the sacrifice to say, like, okay, I understand that you're doing this for our benefit. And the reason why I'm giving the segue back to the money thing is that, like, yes, she is still somebody who does want to make sure that her family is like, you know, financially stable and in the best possible position.
Yeah.
So there is a monetary incentive, I think, indirectly, because I do think that it's an incentive for her to support me, and therefore her support for me to do this is slightly driven through monetary gains. And so
and by default yours too. Like,
because I also do want to make sure my family is taken care of course. But it's mostly coming through her. I think that she's the one who really, like, sees the benefit of committing this time. Like, she's not going to allow me to sacrifice my time with her and my kids if there's nothing to be gained.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, 100%. Listen, like, your wife's amazing, and you know, she's actually the first entrepreneur here. Because, you know, like, she does her own thing, and so she started it, and she understands it before we even conceptualize this being a thing, right? So it's like, you know, to be honest, it's like, yes, you know what I mean. The money is important, but like for us, like why we're doing it and why I'm doing it, it's like it's the meaning, right? You know, this is like the reason I don't have a family. I don't got anyone. You know, I got my friends, and you know, like, I'm doing it because it's like it makes me happy, right? And it's a challenge, and it's something that it's like I said, it gives my life purpose. You know what I mean?
I actually wanted to, like, sort of, I'm not going to say correct because it could be wrong, but I wanted to make a modification to your statement. So that makes you happy. I would have replaced the word happy with fulfilled. Because I do think that's more what it's about for you. Like, I've obviously known you for a long time, but I've known you more intimately in the last couple of years. And, like, what I've recognized about your choices in life is that you're seeking fulfillment on a regular basis. It is partly because you don't have the family, and you don't, you know, so that you're not getting that fulfillment from that part of life. So you need something that's going to supplement that. And I do think that this job and this business is totally doing it for you.
There's a like, and this is for whoever's out there and who's kind of just lonely, right? Or not lonely, but just doesn't have a family, right? It's just like, you guys need something to do. You know, it's something that's going to give you purpose, that's going to challenge you, that's going to help you, and through all these things, you know, inherently it helps you grow and self-actualize and learn more about yourself, and learn more what you can do, and learn, you know, how to get better at things. You know, I do want to move on to one thing that really was kind of interesting there, is like, you know, your wife supports you, and like, I also want to say that, like, you know, I was lucky enough to have like women in my life that thought I was great at one point. You know what I mean? At one point or the other. It's just like, you know, I've had, you know, some chicks, you know, who had a dream about me. Or even my mom said, like, you know, I thought, Roy, I think you're going to be great. And like, this is like, I'm not saying that this is the role that women should play, right? And I don't want to get too young in it, but I do. I want to say that, like, listen, man, that's the part of women that I want to celebrate, that they really can inspire you and support you in, you know.
You're gonna get shit on big time for making these statements. Just what
I know. Listen, and I know, but it's the honest truth. I'm saying, like, that's what did it for me.
So do you think it's? I want to, like, I do want to go down the road a little bit of talking about that part of it,
because we have before. So
yeah, and I look, I'm not necessarily saying that I even disagree. I just want to clarify some things, because you're using the terminology of saying women fill that role or are good at that or whatever. And I'm wondering, I don't necessarily know if it's women or if it's the feminine qualities that fill that role. And because men and women can both express feminine qualities.
It's weird because it's like, I have to just say that, like, you know, I agree with the Jungian stuff. Like, if I start to kind of even pull from my database here of like all I have a huge amount of dudes that I've had friends with, and my dude friends will be like, yo bro, yeah, you can do it. That is not even comparable to when a woman tells you that, yeah bro, like, I believe in you. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's like, it's just, for me, it's not comparable. And I don't know if whoever's listening can understand that. You know what I mean? And maybe people who have listened to this, like, you know, we did talk about incels, and I know we do have some people who are listening to us who want to get out of that shitty mentality of like being resentful towards women, or being, you know, or to whoever, you know what I mean? And just kind of hating some dudes and hating this, you know, people who are getting what they want to get out of life. You know what I mean? And it's just, I'm just saying that, you know, like, you know, Yuri's one of them. Yuri's just, you know, like, shout out to Yuri again, right? So she always listens to our podcast, and awesome girl, and just, that's one of many.
So, okay, I don't want to deviate too far from the premise of what we started talking tonight about, but I think it's really important to explore this.
Yeah.
See, what I'm curious about is, do you think that the impact of those words from the quote unquote women in your life, and in this case my wife for me, do you think that that's a consequence of the social construction that we are living in right now, or do you think that that's biologically a reason for why you're more, you know, are you more motivated by the women's sort of like moral boosting because of, you know, that's just how we were created biologically, that Roy and men are programmed to receive the information differently when it's coming from a woman versus coming from a man? Or do you think that because culturally we've appropriated people into certain roles, that we take that sort of, you know, when they express their like support for what you're doing, is that a function of the construction of the roles that we understand in today's society?
It's an interesting question, and it's an interesting like gray area that you kind of like you illustrated there. I don't know, and I don't know where to really even begin to kind of like answer that. I have my own opinions, right? Mm-hmm. And I think those opinions are going to be like standard Roy opinions that are very middle ground. It's just like the reality is like, yeah, some of it could be social construction, some of it could be biological. You know what I mean? It's just like, but I can't think of a Disney movie, or I can't think of, there are definitely where like a woman will kind of inspire a man to
all Disney movies have that premise, like the traditional ones.
Yeah, so I mean, maybe then something's true about it, or maybe something is constructed about it, and in reality, it's just like you shouldn't even have to get that boost from a woman, right? Like, or anyone, right? It's just like it should come internally, but like the reality is like we're a social creature, dude, and it's like there's no shame in leveraging these kind of these little mechanisms and these tools.
Yeah, I don't want to go down that road, because like to express my opinion, I think would be very similar to yours, because like the question is like chicken or the egg. Okay, maybe we're going to say that's because of social construction, but then the question has to get asked, well, how did we end up in a socially constructed society where we have these roles for women? There must have been some cause to end up like this, right? So does it go back to biology? And the way I see the logic playing out is that inevitably it does have to go back to primitive understandings of the world, and like how men were the providers at the early onset. Anyways,
listen, that I agree. I intuitively, like, you know, if you don't think that you're a monkey, like, then there's something like you know what I mean? Like I the way I see us is like we're just animals, and we've come from monkeys, and we have very similar, like, I watched a lot of like those nature documentaries, and we do very similar things. You know, we understand dogs. You know, and there's a reason why we have dogs in our life, because they're suck ups. You know, they're always like trying to, like, you know, please. They're trying to people please.
Yeah.
Just like what other human beings do. So it's like we're animals. We're not. And this is where I think, you know, people start to go wrong, is when you think that you are more than just a fucking animal, right? So it's just like if we're animals, that's where I cling and I kind of gravitate towards. And that means if that's the explanation that, you know, we have inherently from we have animalistic things, and there's female and male, and I'm not saying that that is permanent and that is unchangeable and that we do not have any governance on these like faculties, but I'm saying that they do exist and I'm going to leverage them, and I'm and I'm not going to go out of my way and like find women and be like, yo, please just like boost my ego. Like, no, it's just like it comes in a very genuine, like just natural place. And
okay,
yeah.
So let's revert back to the premise of why we even brought this whole thing up to begin with. Is that was your source of motivation?
That's not my main source. I'm just saying, like, I was just extending to you, like, I just, in my own realms, like this growth is not a like singular thing. It's a community thing with that involves the growth of a man is a community thing. And it's not just men. It's women and men. Women play a role in the success of a man, and a man plays a role in the success of women. We haven't explored that. Which is another interesting thing, and that's all I'm saying. I'm just saying that we have to do this together. We got to make this thing work together, and this is where, in my eyes, like I do, and this is a little bit more potential. I see this is where it's kind of falling apart. You know what I mean? We're kind of just isolating more. The kids are just isolating more. They're just watching their TV, and then I see them. Their ability to be social out in public is not even comparable to mine and yours. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's diminishing over time.
It's diminishing over time, but it's just like it's a dormant thing that's like I feel it's going to continue to push men and women and everyone, apart, right? And it's going to look like surrogates or like, like fucking some sort of iRobot shit, at some point. But anyways, that's an aside. I'm just why we're talking about this is that I want people to understand of some things to help you break out of that tier. For us to be doing the things that we're doing, we had to transform from child Rob and child Roy and even the mature one and the adolescent, and there's these stages of our lives that we have to go through, just almost like I'm not gonna like even women have like a rite of passage into womanhood when they have a child, right? And men are no different, right? We have something too. We're not stupid, right? Like, and what does that look like? Is this transformation, picking up more responsibility, right? And it's just like we're here on this podcast helping everyone to try to look for that next tier up. There's more tiers for us.
Yeah,
a lot more.
Well, the beautiful thing is that there's an infinite number of tiers, and I think that's the part that, like, if you can, I think a lot of people, when they recognize that there's no top of the ladder, that it's like it's easy to give up because it's just like, well, this is a never-ending race. We're just going to go forever.
Exactly.
But if you focus more on the microscopic and you think about that next step that's in front of you, you just keep targeting that and you just keep moving towards that.
Yeah.
And like, this is a philosophy that's worked for people forever. Like, this is not a new philosophy. People have been thinking like this and talking like this for fucking thousands of years, right? There's wisdom in these philosophers. You go and you start reading into very ancient philosophies. This principle exists then as much as it does now.
So, okay, this is going to be a little bit longer episode because I feel like I do want to explore this next topic because we haven't had an episode in a while, right?
Yeah.
So, this idea of tiers that we're kind of like crafting right now. Let's just say I ride motorcycles. Not anymore, not too much because you guys listened to the last damn episode, right? But like a Ducati, everybody knows what a Ducati is. That's like let's just say it's an A tier, and all the motorcycle people who actually do listen to this, you're gonna know I'm wrong, but for the general public, let's just say Ducati's an A tier or an S tier, right? Like premium tier. It's just like, but like let's say a shittier bike like a Triumph or like a Harley, which they are shittier. I'm sorry for all you heard. It's just a horrible build quality. Like, if you have a horrible build quality, can you exist in the S tier? It's just an analogy. I'm just giving you an idea. If you are a world class soccer player and you're in like, you're playing a beer league, can you exist in that tier? The reality is like, no, you'd have to transform, right? And the motivation and like the self-confidence is that people think that they can't transform, right? Like even the discussion that we've been having, right? It's just like, oh yeah, but like I've got sleep apnea, so I can't like wake up on time, all that shit, right? I think some of it is true, right? But I think also some of it is it's like, yeah, but you don't need to be vaping all the time, and you don't need to be like going to sleep late. You don't have to leave your shit on, right? It's just like when you deal with that stuff, it's just like, whoa, now I'm a completely different human being.
Yeah, I don't think people recognize that those small changes make a big difference. There are limitations. We are still limited creatures, and there was a person I used to work with I was a teenager, like this is going back 20 something years ago. And there was a guy I used to work with. I was friends with him for a very long time. I haven't talked to him in a while now. But anyways, I remember him asking me for help on, like, I think he was algebra or something from high school. Just a math course in high school. An easy one. He was taking, like, the lower level math. I don't even remember what the levels are called now. But there's, like, college bound and university bound. And there's, like, university college bound. Anyways.
It's like core?
Yeah, I don't know.
Core and academic or something like that.
Something like that. There's tiers in Ontario for, like, how they...
Applied.
That's what it used to be, and then it became university college.
Yeah.
Anyway, he was taking the lower level math course. The questions were very, simple questions. I shouldn't say that. Simple relative to what I would consider, difficult.
They're straightforward,
Yeah, like they were really like, 3x plus 1 equals 4, solve for x. Like simple stuff. Yeah. And I was like, I told myself that like, I'll be able to teach him this, no problem. This is like, this is really easy, and with enough persistence, he'll get it.
Yeah.
And I tried, and I tried, and I tried. And it's not that I'm a bad teacher. Yeah. I mean, that could be arguable, but I've tutored many people before, and I've been pretty successful with it. Yeah. And I can usually tell, because I have tutored, I can usually tell when I'm working with somebody if the mental aptitude is there or it's not. Like, some people just don't have the capacity to do better in some domains.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought, like, that was a really eye-opening experience for me as a young man, like, I just thought, like, I thought the whole world, everybody saw the world the way I saw it, right? And I always thought to myself, like, there's no limit. You're just not practicing, or you're just not, like, focused on this. Mm-hmm. And it made me go through that experience to realize that, like, no, sometimes it's not about that. Sometimes there are limitations. Yeah. So in the realm of, like, what we're talking about here in terms of being able to, like, tear up. Yeah. Some people will only be able to tear up so far in specific domains. Yeah. And I think what I really want to get to is that you can't measure what tier you're in. I know we're speaking about it like it's quantitative, but I think what's important to recognize is that it's not quantitative. And that tiering up is not about a tier up in terms of how society perceives what tier you're in. Yeah. It's internal, and it's about who you are and how you feel about yourself and how you see the world. Yeah. And I think that tier up is just an internal sensation that I can't articulate it right now, but there's a feeling that happens. It's just like when the only way I can simulate it or give an example of a simulation of that feeling, it's like, imagine that you were trying to, like, solve a puzzle. And you were trying and trying, and then one day the puzzle is solved. And that feeling of, like, that accomplishment that you've solved that puzzle, that sensation is sort of what I'm trying to...
Yes, and you know what? I want to, like, now retract even this analogy of the tier, because it's actually not even... it's not about the tiers. It's about that feeling.
Yes.
Like, it's literally about that. Like, disregard everything. Like, fuck every tier. Fuck... it doesn't matter. My mom told me to stop swearing, so I'm gonna try. Yeah, she listens. She's like, I asked my mom. I'm like, Mom, can you help me promote my podcast? And she's just like, okay. She listened to one episode. And I was just like swearing like crazy. She's like, bro, stop swearing. It's like so cheap, dude. And like, you know what I mean? I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna stop swearing. But yeah, it's not about the tier. It's not about upgrading to the next tier, because then now you're in rat race mode. It's about that sensation, about accomplishing something that is just beyond what you thought you can handle. Mm-hmm. That's it. That is the David Goggins. It's like, you don't know yourself. You don't know if you will never know if you're, you can shoot a 3-pointer, past half court. You know what I mean? That is when you know yourself, when you try that thing, right? And you give it an attempt. So, and it goes back to one of our first episodes, David Goggins. It's just like, if I ask somebody, it's like, Rob, can you run 20K? I don't know. You know what I mean? So, but if you tried it and you worked at it, and like it, and like, yo, shout out to Zhang. Like, the man is running 5K in 28 minutes. It started with me and it died. You know, you tried a little bit, but like this guy is still doing it. You know what I mean? Zhang is still running the 5Ks and he's getting faster and faster. And he's going to be able to find out if he can run it in 23 minutes. He's going to find out he's in 21 minutes. So it's like, that is why I am doing this whole business shit. That's why it seems like I'm doing something more than everybody else, right? And the last thing I want to kind of get into, and we're at 40 minutes here, is just like, there are going to be people who want to keep you into the status quo. So like, some of the feedback I've been getting is just like, yeah, I don't want to work that. I just want to chill. Like, I want to just, you know, like, oh, you know, I've heard people work this amount and like, they fucking died. That's what they're telling me. It's just like, I'm enjoying myself, pushing myself to the extreme, and they're telling me not to do it. And like, these people they want to chill. Like, they want to just live an easy life. What do you think about that, Rob? Like, and that's and I know it's to each their own, and maybe there's something that dawned in their head that they don't want to know themselves, or maybe it you know, my defense is that, oh, and I want to diffuse even my kind of resent is like, oh, it's like these people just don't want to like try. They you know, they're like insecure. They don't want to see what they're made of.
Okay, so what I would say, to keep it in line with what we just said about like that internal feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah.
And the part that matters of that statement is like the internal part. So I don't think, so yes, to each their own. I have no prejudice against anybody's choices in life. I have no prejudice against what you dream for, what you aspire to be, what you are currently doing, what you've done.
Right.
None of that matters. What I'm trying to get at is that you're finding purpose through the work that you're undertaking now, and it's bringing you that feeling. You're finding that accomplishment feeling. That pot of gold lies in the work for you.
Yeah.
The pot of gold may not be in the same place for everybody. No. It's actually it's not in the same place for everybody.
Yeah, I believe that.
And I think that when they say they want to chill, sure, I think that in the context of what you were describing to them, which is working 16 hours, they're saying they want to chill. I don't necessarily believe that means that they want to just do nothing and be blobs forever. I think that they're saying it in the realm of what you were talking about, like working so hard. Perhaps in that context, they were saying like, no, I just want to work 6 or 8 hours a day and I'll be content with what I've got. So it's not about that I don't think that those people were trying to say like, I want to do nothing and just chill. I think that they were saying, relative to what you're describing, I want to chill. But let's say hypothetically that they even said that they really truly wanted to do nothing and they wanted to just chill for their whole life and do nothing. Sure. I mean, that can be possible. But it means that they have to seek meaning and purpose elsewhere. And it could be something as simple as like, I don't know, I want to read as many books as I possibly can. Maybe that provides that feeling of accomplishment.
Yeah, man.
Maybe it's something even dumber than that. Maybe it's just like, you know, I want to see if I can travel to every single city on the globe. Maybe that's their source of accomplishment. I don't know. Point is that like that's going to be up to them to find.
Yeah.
It's not up to you, and it's not for you to understand.
No, and that's 100%. Because that's where I've seen some people go wrong. It's like they'll start to like, you know, they'll resent people who are like not pushing themselves to the extreme. And I'm more of the camp. And sometimes I fall into that, you know what I mean? And sometimes
we all do.
Because I beat myself up on it when I'm not doing it, right? I'm really sorry, guys. So sometimes like I am definitely of that camp who's kind of like resentful towards people who are not pushing themselves to the max. But I had a conversation with Zhang the other day, and you know, when he was telling me about all these things where he doesn't, you know, he just wants to have like an easy life and stuff. But like I kept asking him like, but what is it that you're here for? Like, what do you want to do? Like, you know what I mean? And like I asked him a million times, and finally I saw that spark. He's like, I want to write this goddamn graphic novel. And like that energy You know what I mean? Like that
Yeah.
energy is amazing when you see that, and I'm sure that you agree too. When you're interested in people who have like a spark, who's enthusiastic about something, you know what I mean? And it's just, I would want that for everyone. Everybody who has their passion, I would want them to fulfill it. And this is where we come to like a crossroads. Like, you know, if people who are listening to us, I have a feeling deep down that like you guys have something that you want to get out of this life, right? And or whatever your goals are, and like that's, I would want to really just, I would hope this podcast helps you get that. You know what I mean? For everybody who just wants to chill, who wants to do whatever, you know what I mean? Like whatever, then I'm sure you're not even listening, right? So like, and that's why I'm focused on this kind of like element here.
I think the other part of it is that the whole state of mind of like what you can ask somebody today right now, like, what is it that you want to get out of this life?
Yeah.
And you might get an answer that is, I want to make a comic book.
Yeah.
You can ask the same person in 6 months, and they might be somewhere completely different, and they might have a completely different aspiration and ambition. And, you know, the response should remain the same. That's great. You should pursue it, right? That part is where I agree with you and say that, like, that is where you should be focusing your energy. There's no doubt. The number one argument that counters all of this, because this, I don't want this to sound like that standard fucking inspirational bullshit that you hear on, like, Instagram and fucking TikTok videos where they're just like, you gotta do what you want to fucking do and, like, fuck the world.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a very productive way of trying to get the message across to people, because there is still the challenge of, like, the everyday that you have to deal with. You might want to be, like, let's say you want to be a comic book writer, right? Like, is there enough? And again, I don't want to bring money into it like it matters, but it does for survival. You still got to have shelter. You still got to have food. You still need a mode of transportation. Like, these are things that you need. Unfortunately, this is the way the world is structured. You need them here. You know, and you can argue that you don't need them, but I would say that if you want to pursue the ability to write a comic book and be successful at it, having those things are certainly helping elements, elements that will help you achieve that goal. So there is still like the compounding effect of, like, you can't just give up on everything else that you don't like and just put all of your energy into what you are considering to be your passion. Yeah,
like there has to be a practice.
Yes, there has to be practicality.
There has to be a practicality to it, and yeah, there definitely has to be practicality to it.
Well, and I think that's more the approach that I would want to cater to people. Is like, okay, you want to write comics? Yeah, sure. Well, how many hours a day do you want to dedicate to doing that? Yeah. Maybe it's 4, maybe it's 8, maybe it's 12. I don't know.
Maybe you can only afford 30 minutes.
But that's just what it comes down to. You have to evaluate time, and time management becomes of the utmost importance. Yeah. So, okay, you want to become a comic book writer, and that may be a realistic goal for you because you're great at it. Yeah. But you're not going to just walk into Marvel Studio and say, "Here's my comic book. Look, make it," because it's never going to happen that way. Now, you can get to that point, and I think that you can work your way to that point, and the way to do it is to just transition it. You know, you need to balance it. Maybe you do need to have a job that you're unfortunately not happy doing, just so that you can keep the roof over your head and keep the pencil sharp in your hand that you're using to write the comic, or the computer, or whatever else that you're going to need, because all these things are assisting factors in developing what you want to work for. And I think that the real message should be, don't take these fucking nonsense people who are just like, give everything up and do what you want to do. No. Be careful on following that pursuit, because it can lead to failure, and that failure can compound into like extreme poverty and really hard times for you and a lack of ability to survive. I think you need to balance it. You need to evaluate what is practical, and again, stick to the comic book writer. You're right. You maybe don't have 12 hours a day. No. Okay, and do you need 12 hours a day? Well, maybe to get to your goal faster, sure. Yeah. But maybe you concede. If you think your goal is 3 years to get there, well, maybe it's got to be 6 years to get there. Yeah. Right? Because you still need to live. So let's scale it back a little bit. Pursue what you're passionate about, no doubt, and make that an end goal. Give yourself that ambition that, like, this is my target and I want to reach this target. Yeah. And if you miss the target, it's okay. Keep trying. Yeah. Set another target.
Yes. Listen, the advice and I want to be very clear, because I do agree with you, and that's not anything that we've done to go down this path. We didn't just drop everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we kept jobs.
We
in the
kept
background.
jobs and we kept working, and I'm not saying by any means we've even made it, but we're still alive to live the next day.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And I'm just saying, identify that passion, right? And also don't do the whole that whole expectation thing where you're just blowing up. You have the expectation of reward and you don't get the reward because you don't actually write the comic book. It's just like, yeah, you gotta, and I hate saying it, you gotta put in the hours, all that that's all the standard stuff, but it's just over this podcast, it's like, identify the fact that the work is the reward key. That's what we're talking about. And we're not thinking totally about starting a mega like PCL business here, you know what I mean, and having like being a Joe Rogan, right? It's just we're doing this one step at a time. Still we're still on the steps, right? And we haven't made it. And I'm just saying, I just want to give our listeners the idea that like, listen, like, you have an idea maybe to start a podcast, and we're a couple of steps ahead of you. And the reason we're a couple of steps ahead of you is because for these reasons, right, that we've kind of listed and we've kind of discussed here, like motivation, having the right people around you, all these type of things. But
yeah, no, I fully agreed, man. And we're very far from quote unquote making it.
Yeah.
But we're sure as fuck a lot farther along that road than we were a year ago.
Yes.
And like, that can never be debated.
Yeah.
Nobody can ever come to me and say that, like, oh, your shit's going nowhere, because you know what? It's already gone somewhere.
Yeah.
So even if it falls dead now, well, I've at least gotten to where I am right now.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm content with where I am right now.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm content is because it's not about the fulfillment of the ultimate goal. It's the journey to that goal.
And that's where those comments come from. Not that we're saying we got it anyway, because we've only got positive stuff, but those comments are like, oh yeah, there's like, you didn't get this done, or like you didn't have this, or this person's this, and they're chirping this person because she's ugly, or you know what I mean? It's just like, that's where that energy comes from, that like low achieving mentality, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's the people who are like criticizing, who don't do anything, right? Who are only living in that world of full expectation. And I had people close to me who are like that. We put out a podcast, and she was just like, yeah, like, this is like, there's so many things wrong. It's just like, bro, now I see why you're not getting anywhere. I see why you're not getting anywhere. Because you're just living in expectation land of like the ultimate reward. And I'm just like, literally like, girl, I'm sorry, bro. But like, what would I say? Keep the right people around you. Cut. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, it is really important. And I honestly, like, I don't know what more to say. I think it's a simple philosophy is just to keep the real objective in mind, which is to enjoy the path, right? Like, just don't be afraid of failure. That's another thing that we didn't really mention tonight, but like, not being afraid, especially as people like us who are people pleasers. We've always been haunted by like this like intimidation from what other people are going to think and they're going to judge. Once you let that go, and once you just start doing it because you enjoy it, and you start feeling that internal accomplishment, the accomplishment that when someone flatters you and that feeling that you get, that's very temporary, and it fades so quickly. But when you get it internally and you feel that flattery inside of yourself, it's like it trumps all other types of fucking rewards that you could possibly ever get from the outside.
Yeah, people please yourself.
Yeah, that's it.
All
that's right.
That's what you have to do. You just got to people please yourself. That's it. Wow, that just sounds fucked up. But anyways, whatever. That's the title of the episode. People please yourself.
That's it. Done.
That's it. Done. Anyways, guys, listen. That was a great episode. Hopefully the audio wasn't too bad, because I do see it spiking a little bit. And that's another episode of Risky Thoughts with Rob and Roy. Thank you guys for listening.
We'll catch you guys next time. And check us out on Instagram at riskythoughts.to.
Peace.